Next up, we have privately held Axine Water Technologies. Based in Vancouver, Axine is a leader in electrochemical oxidation technology for industrial wastewater treatment. In addition to remediation, its patent pending technology aims to destroy harmful substances, including PFAS, at the source before they enter the environment. Axine's ElectroClear electrochemical oxidation process is its solution for the complete destruction of organic compounds, contaminants, and in industrial water and wastewater. Today we have the pleasure of hosting President and CEO Mark Ralph. Mark has over 20 years in the pharmaceutical industry with roles in drug discovery, operations, financial management, business development, licensing, and venture capital before joining Axine. So I'll turn it over to Ralph to learn more about Axine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wayne. First of all, thank you to the Gabelli Funds for organizing this event. It's my third year attending, second year participating. But always, I think every time I leave here, I learn something new, which is always very good. It's also especially true in PFAS, where it seems like things keep on changing from year to year, but we'll see how it goes. All right, let's see if I could get the buttons working. Or the big green button is probably a good indication. So Axine is, we position ourselves as a contaminants destruction company. I know everyone here is very interested in PFAS. This is a topic at the symposium. But I can assure you it's not the only contaminant that is making into wastewater today. There are things like pharmaceuticals, antibiotics, hormones. There's other industrial chemicals. If you think of 1,4-dioxane, 6-PPD being another emerging contaminant coming down the road. But it's going to continue into the long run that there's always going to be chemical contamination. We use chemicals in every aspect of our lives. And I can assure you that every chemical is eventually toxic to you. It's just a matter of the limit that actually gets into your bloodstream to cause that toxicity. So when we're talking about PFAS, what is happening now, right? I think there's already been several companies up here today that talked about the far left treatment approaches using different media sources such as GAC, ion exchange, concentrating water using reverse osmosis or using foam fractionation. And a lot of this right now when you're using media are either going off to landfills or they're going off to incineration. Sometimes it's going to be deep well injection. Either way, what you're actually doing is removing PFAS from the water, but then you're kind of shifting the problem to another source or another area. You're not actually getting rid of the chemical. What we would like to see is that, of course, while these concentration technologies are extremely important to our success, we want to see the concentrate that are coming from a lot of these liquid concentration approaches to come to our type of system for complete destruction. So destruction on the atom-to-atom bond level. And this is what ElectroClear does, and this is very sensitive. Okay, so when we're talking about electrochemical oxidation, I'll talk specifically about how our reactors are designed. But basically, you have two electrodes within a reactor system. You have an anode and a cathode. You're passing a current through these catalyst-coated electrodes. You're generating a mix of oxidation species. And these molecules are coming in and breaking down the contaminants on an atom-by-atom level. So we're breaking the carbon-fluorine bonds, breaking the carbon-oxygen bonds, nitrogen, hydrogen, carbon-hydrogen, whatever it is. What you get as an outcome is stable elemental gases. We're talking hydrogen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide. In the case of fluoride ions, we want that to stay in the aqueous level as being hydrated fluoride ions rather than given off as like an HF gas or something along that lines. The advantage of electrochemical oxidation, it's an ambient type of approach for destruction. It enables both selective destruction of organics or non-selective destruction of inorganics. So the advantage with it is that you could have a mixture of PFAS, with 1,4-dioxane or other contaminants. No matter what, it's going to break it down. That's also could be a little bit of a problem because if you have a high organic load or organic contaminant load besides the target molecules that you're looking at, then that just requires additional electricity in order to further break that down within the aqueous solution. The other advantage is that there is no solid or liquid waste being generated. These elemental gases are exactly what is coming out of the process and out of the reactors as we move forward. So this is a picture of a typical 40-foot container that we have. We normally either deploy 20-foot containers, 40-foot containers, or we have skid design systems that fit into a warehouse type of design, depending on the scale of the water that we're looking to be treated. This particular system, when combined with a concentration technology like I mentioned on the previous slide, can treat up to 50 to 500,000 gallons of raw unconcentrated water per day. Our systems typically include both pre and post-treatment conditions as well, or treatment options, and they are fully automated with a variety of remote monitoring and operation sensors. So each one of these systems have over a dozen sensors with the information feeding back into our network of systems controls over in Vancouver, where we could constantly monitor the progression of the reaction and monitor the systems. Now, the important thing to point out is that you do not need an actual on-site operator for our units, right? They are deployed at the customer site and they're run completely remote. We have, of course, contractors coming in to make sure that the systems are operating correctly. If there's any breakdown or issues, we will have also field staff responding to look at getting the system back up and running as well. So what is the Axine difference? I mean, there's going to be many destruction companies out there, and by the looks of the contaminant space or destruction space, especially with PFAS, there's going to be a sliver of the market for everyone, right? And there's going to be particular characteristics of the water to be treated for every type of technology. What's our difference? Well, we've been around for a while. We're not a young company. We were started in 2010. I would say that we really got going in 2013 once we received some funding from various venture capital partners. But really, over 10 years, we've spent a lot of time working on our reactor designs, working on our know-how for how to operate the systems for different molecules to be destroyed. And this has also culminated in the issuance of 57 patents over 13 different patent families. Commercial experience is very important, and I'll go into this in a couple more slides, but we have been commercially deployed since 2017, treating contaminants 24/7, 365 days a year, with now over 200,000 hours of commercial runtime in our various systems. The systems are located in the US, Puerto Rico, and Mexico. I have a map in a minute, but we'll get to that. And the other part is that we haven't had any turnover in our customers. So there's 100% customer retention. All of our contracts have been renewed for long-term treatment as a service as well. So we are growing up, and we certainly hope to be growing faster over the next coming years. Proven PFAS destruction. I'm going to tell you that we can demonstrate multi-log destruction of both long chain, short chain, ultra short chain, and I'm going to show you results in this slide. And I think it's very important that if you're looking at any destruction provider, they should show you your results for broad spectrum destruction, not just PFOA and PFOS. Because if you're breaking down PFOA and PFOS, you're going to be generating short chain PFAS at some point. So make sure you see the results. Advanced reactor design. Again, this has been a lot of our effort over the years for R&D and how we've gone into it. We know that different materials in our reactors are necessary to treat different compounds and to do it in a very economically electrical way and cost way as well. So it's going to be a very big impact from an energy optimization standpoint. So as I mentioned, we are commercially deployed. This is a picture. All the little A's are actual manufacturing sites where our systems are operating right now. The Axine Water, that's up in Vancouver, of course. But we have installations in microelectronics, pharmaceuticals, and metal finishing. And we are commercially treating everything from pharmaceuticals, solvents, and PFAS. In actual fact, in April of this year, we have deployed our first permanent commercial PFAS treatment system. So this is factory 1 of 3 factories that we will be doing with this particular customer. We are building the permanent install right now, which will go in November of this year. The other part that's very important to highlight is since the last time that I was at this podium presenting, we were able to make a first close of a $30 million financing led by Veralto. Veralto, for those of you who may not know, is a large water company, American-based. They make around $5.5 billion a year, I think around a $56 billion market cap. They have companies under them such as ChemTreat, Trojan, etc. What this gives us access to is a network of channel salespeople who are distributing or working with us for distributing our product. It also gives us access to a big swath of existing customers that they already have in North America, both in the municipal space and also within the industrial space. Furthermore, we want to make sure that we are getting widespread. But you know, we're a small company. I think everyone knows that. We're private. We're still only 25, 30 people in size. How do we even go out further? And our collaboration with Nyhouse is an important opportunity to be able to expand into Europe and to other areas. So Nyhouse Sour Industries is another major water provider. They are present in the United States, but they have a much bigger presence as well in Europe. So what Nyhouse gives us is, again, access to channel sales partnership capabilities, but additional manufacturing capacity. So as we grow in North America, we are currently building all of our systems in-house, and we think that we could support the demand and the growth over the next couple of years for North American supply. But for European supply, we're really going to be relying on our channel partner with Nyhouse for them to build our systems, and we're going to be deploying the reactors within those. Let's see, there we go. I promised to show you data. I wanted to show you this abbreviated slide. Obviously, there's a lot more data supporting this as well, but there's a couple things or a couple areas where I want to point out. First off, the different sources of water that we've been treating. And this is all right now bench level testing or lab scale type of testing. But you got semiconductor water, landfill leachate, groundwater, a variety of different concentrations, right? So these are parts per trillion, 300 all the ways up to 375 million. I guess that's parts per million. Sorry, 375 parts per million. But then you also have the original EPA regulated list of PFAS molecules. So PFOA, PFOS, Gen X, et cetera. But we also wanted to point out our efficacy in PFBA because this is showing the broad spectrum of destruction going from long chain PFAS all the ways down to short chain. And it's very important to point out. And if you see a couple of these, like the 92.668 or the 97.6, those are a result of the fact that the water sample was so small that we received that we weren't able to run the assay long enough in order to show complete destruction. If we just ran a little bit longer, we get results that are more typical of the brine water example that we have in the last line. As I mentioned, we are commercial right now. This is an example of our commercial system in Michigan. And the key points here is to show you that we did do a stepwise approach to landing this customer. We started with lab scale, then we went to pilot scale, and then we went to eventually full-scale commercial deployment. And what we're seeing is that there is a consistency in the treatment progress, right? It's important to point out this chart right over here, and I wonder if there's a, oh, look at that, okay. Yeah, so if you have this laser here, you will see that the short chain kind of spikes up early in the process of the treatment. And this makes sense if you think of it, because when you have longer chain PFAS, when you look at the mechanism of the breakdown of the molecules, the PFOA and PFOS and others break down the short chain, and then you start to see the short chain start to progress and break down as well to get to complete mineralization where it's breaking on the atom-to-atom bond level. And this is important, again, because I think when you look at destruction, if you just feel that PFOA and PFOS, as long as those peaks go away in the LCMS, you're not really treating the full problem. And this is what we're trying to get to. But so far this year, we've treated up to 8 million gallons of wastewater with this particular customer. And it looks like we're going to be starting to build up the next permanent installations for the next 2 factories next year as well. So this is my pitchy slide. I don't mean to put it out here, but I have it anyways. So the key thing here is that when we're talking about PFAS, what are our customers concerned about? They're mostly concerned about meeting regulations right now. That's what's 50% of this whole discussion today is about regulations. I think that's important, but I want everyone to realize, especially if you're a manufacturer, it's the regulations today on PFAS, but that's not going to be your worry in 20 years' time. It will be another chemical. And then after that, it'll be a different chemical. And if you want to really get freedom in your operation approach, just install a complete treatment train right now that encompasses both concentration technologies, but also destruction technologies, and take control of your own manufacturing fate. It's going to be expected by society eventually, but it's also going to be cost savings to you in the long run. The other point that I want to bring up is really when you look at the last bullet point, and we see this when we're talking with semiconductor manufacturers. The semiconductor manufacturer approach has a very validated approach where they are using PFAS polymers and molecules in multiple steps, all right? To just switch that out with an alternative chemical will be extremely costly to those industries. But not only that, it's questionable whether they could actually do it. So if you are just treating the small molecules at the very end of the process, you could use the chemicals that make the most sense to your manufacturing process. Then it's not about the costliness of disposal, it's about the costliness of switching out one of your key reagents during your manufacturing process. So that's the end of my point. I think I have there we go. Thank you, slide. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Mark. Is this on? Am I coming through? All right. So we'll open it up for Q&A. That was a great overview. We have one in the back, but I'll start it off. Just can you go a little? You mentioned how there's room for a lot of destruction technologies in the market. What makes ElectroClear differ from other destruction technologies, and what makes you unique even among electro-oxidation?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing you should look at in destruction technologies, and I said it during my presentation, but I want to reemphasize it, is number one, are you able to destroy broad spectrum PFAS? That's key, right? I mean, if you're not able to get right down to true mineralization, if you're not able to treat TFA or PFBA, for example, down to 99.9% destruction, you probably are going to have a longer term problem, right? So that's a key part. The other thing I think you have to look at for your manufacturing site, for your manufacturing process, how intrusive of a technology can you have? Do you really need something under ambient control, ambient temperatures, or are you fine increasing the temperature or increasing pressure or anything like that? I mean, those may all be options, and I think it depends on the site where you're looking at implementing your destruction technology.
We had one in the back. Get the mic.
Can you talk about the cost of using the Axine and how long the product has to be in the, whatever you call it, reactor?
I'll say this, and you're going to hate my answer, and I know that because everyone hates this answer. It all depends on the water, right? And the reason why I say this is that we have some very, relatively cheap re-electrodes that, depending on the contaminant that we're treating, the cheaper electrodes may be perfectly fine, and they may have to be replaced every once in a while. But then we have very robust electrodes that last longer, but they're very expensive, but they will definitely guarantee your destruction of different PFAS molecules. It also depends on what else is in that water. Are we treating water that's coming after multiple treatment or pre-treatment steps, like in a chemical manufacturer where it's relatively pure water with one or two contaminants that we're looking to treat? That you're probably going to get very cheap because the electrodes will last longer. You're going to get the definitive destruction that you want to see. But if you have something like leachate, where you have to incorporate it in foam frac, maybe you might even have to incorporate in some biological treatment, depending on what's in there, the cost for the total treatment solution can start to creep up and go up. But realistically, you're going to find that for any destruction solution. So if you're looking at the reactors, right, and how long, I'm going to interpret your question as being the durability of the reactors. They can last anywhere from like a year to upwards of, we're seeing 6 to 7 years per reactor, right? But that's just how the electrodes are operating, but we typically go into a treatment as a service plan with each of our customers so that we're operating the systems as well as they go. Mm-hmm. Yes?
I think he was asking how long it takes to treat a gallon of water.
Oh, yeah. My apologies. Again, I mean, it's a batch cycle. So in our current installs, in our largest install, for example, right now, we're doing 3 to 4 hours per batch, but that's running 24/7, and that's with one container system.
Robert in the back.
On your slide, you had a footnote about power optimization. Can you expand on that?
Yeah. So actually, is that deck gone? Because there is one slide that I want.
You can pull it back up, maybe.
If you don't mind, because that would actually help out a lot. So the answer to that is it depends, right? Because it depends on how contaminated the water is with other water or other contaminants, right? So the more contaminants that are mixed in with the PFAS, the more energy we need to expend in order to get the destruction on the PFAS molecules that you want. The cleaner the water it is, the cheaper it is, and the lower the energy consumption, right? Because you're basically destroying the molecules right away once you expose a current. I always like to use the example. It also depends on the concentration that's kind of coming in. It's fine, the slide's not going to come up. But if you consider a very crowded stadium, right? If you have a lightning bolt of electricity that comes down and hits right in the middle of that crowded stadium, you're going to kill a lot of people very quickly, unfortunately, right? Whereas if you have a very a very empty stadium, so it's just 2 or 3 people, and you have that electric bolt come through, you're probably not going to kill anybody in that instance, right? Everyone's going to survive perfectly fine, because it all depends, the energy optimization all goes into the concentration of the PFAS molecules, but also the concentration of other constituents. And now that the slides are up, all right, this isn't going to work. But nonetheless, I hope you kind of get the intent there. Yes?
Real quick on a monetization strategy, is it more selling the units to the user and then charging them to maintain it, or is it hey, this is a yearly cost breakdown and
It's both. So all of our current customers are under what's called our treatment as a service approach, right? And that's preferred for them. It works out well. They're pharmaceutical companies, or several of them are pharmaceutical companies, and then this company in Michigan for PFAS. They don't want to deal with the operation of the system. They just want the problem to go away. So we come in, we own the system, we're treating it, we're responding to breakdowns, we replace the reactors, the electrodes. The advantage to the customer is that they are paying a fixed price per quarter as long as the water is remaining within contract specified confines, right? So if they're going way out of spec with their water, then we have the option to be able to increase the price. But as long as it's within a range, they get a consistent quarterly invoice. And the customers like that. It's been working well. Obviously, every 5 years we have to sit down and go through another negotiation, but in general, we're getting those renegotiated agreements, so that's positive. Now, what we are starting to see, and what we're talking to right now, are much larger companies. So semiconductor manufacturers, large chemical companies, and much larger volumes, especially when you're talking with municipalities. And we understand that they may not want to go into a treatment as a service agreement that may cost a few million per year. They may want capital purchases. So we're willing to do that. We will definitely sell capital units, but there is the requirement to enter into a service agreement with us. And the reason being is that you can't just plug these systems in and treat the water, and any old person could go in and do it. It's really cost advantage to the customer, because by us operating, we're making the electrodes or the reactors last longer. We're also guaranteeing that you're going to get to the treatment objective that you've specified, right? So that's where it's coming off. Now, in the long run, what I definitely want to see with the advent of artificial intelligence, and also with all the data that we're collecting, is that a computer is completely running it, and then it's going to be more of a software license type of approach.
Is that typically how long the contracts are, 5 years, and then how sticky have they been so far?
So currently it's all 5 years, and every single one of our customers has renewed.
Got a question up here. You got a mic?
How difficult is it to, I guess, change the electrodes when you're, I guess, changing the water that's coming in? Is it simple switch or anything like that?
So we actually, when you look at it, we have reactors within a system of different types of materials. So we can control which reactors the water can flow into, depending on what's coming in and the characteristics. If you're looking at replacing the reactors, it's very simple, because we've designed them to be, I think, around 50 pounds in weight. So the idea is that you could go through, take them out manually. You don't need special equipment like forklifts or anything like that, and you just swap them out. When we get to the skid design type of systems, where you might have a warehouse, then you would just swap out a skid with a skid type of thing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Since you presented last year with the change in EPA regulations, how have you seen response from customers? Have you seen any changes in demand?
Yeah.
How have installations gone? Any difference in pilot programs?
You know what's interesting? I'm going to give you a very honest answer, not a polished answer here. We did see a slowdown in Q1 going into Q2, right? So when everyone was uncertain as to how the new administration would come in, they didn't know if the regulations would completely be gone or what would happen. So a lot of customers who we were talking to in 2024 were kind of like, okay, well, let's just see how things go. We're not doing anything right now. What we did see, though, is that the larger customers that have to use PFAS or are continuing to generate PFAS or whatever it is, they have a long-term view. It doesn't matter what this current administration is doing, because realistically, they can't predict what type of administration is going to be in 4 years' time. And if you're a large company, you cannot just change your strategy overnight. So those companies are still continuing to talk to us. I would say that with our partners with NIHAS and Veralto, we're getting more customer traction than what we've ever seen in the company. So we're testing more water now than what we've ever done, and also talking about more pilots than what we've ever done as well.
And then just finally, quickly, you mentioned the fundraising you did this year. What are you looking for going forward, and next steps for Axine?
Yeah, so I've got the second close open until November 7th of this year. Looking to fill it with the last remaining 10 million. So if there's any investors out there that are interested, please talk to me after. But nonetheless, we have that committed as well, but we are still keeping that round open. And then after that, I think we're going to be good for the foreseeable, for the next couple of years anyways, without the need to raise money. Hopefully, I'm going to see profitability within this time frame as well. So that's the objective.
Well, that sounds great. We thank you for coming again, Mark, and we look forward to following Axine's progress.
That's great. Thank you. It's much better commute.
Tony Bancroft and Timothy Winter, CFA, are portfolio managers. Wayne Pinsent, CFA, is Director of Research and Research Analyst, and Rosemary Morbelli, CFA, and Dr. Rebecca Stern, PhD, are Research Analysts at Gabelli Funds. The above webcast is a recording from the 3rd Annual PFAS Symposium, which occurred on September 17, 2025. GAMCO is providing these links as a matter of general information. We do not intend for these links to be a complete description of any security or company, nor is it a research report with respect to any of the companies mentioned herein. As of June 30, 2025, affiliates of GAMCO Investors Incorporated beneficially owned 1.1% of Minerals Technologies and less than 1% of all other companies mentioned. The analysts' views are subject to change at any time based on market and other conditions. The information in this posting represents the opinions of the analyst and is not intended to be a forecast of future events, a guarantee of future results, or investment advice. Views expressed are those of the analyst and may differ from those of other GAMCO officers, analysts, other employees, or of the firm as a whole. Because the investment personnel at GAMCO and our affiliates make individual investment decisions with respect to the client accounts that they manage, these accounts may have transactions inconsistent with the information contained in this posting. Certain GAMCO personnel may know the substance of the posting prior to its posting. This webcast is not an offer to sell any security, nor is it a solicitation of an offer to buy any security. Stocks are subject to market, economic and business risks that cause their prices to fluctuate. When you sell shares, they may be worth less than what you paid for them. For more information, a prospectus, or summary prospectus, visit our website at www.gabelli.com or call 800 Gabelli 800 422 355 914 921 5100 fax 914 921 5118 info@gabelli.com.